By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to handle a covert narcissist with strength. Let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tamie. I'm Joyce. I'm an empowerment life coach specializing in codependency and narcissistic abuse recovery for empaths, scapegoats, and awakening light leaders. If you're new to my channel, a very special welcome. Please take a second to say hello and introduce yourself in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss a new video. So let's talk about how to handle a covert narcissist with strength. Now, to begin with, it's important to know that narcissistic personality pattern actually manifests in varying degrees of severity on a spectrum or a continuum. And people with this destructive personality pattern can present in different ways. In other words, these are never black or white issues, and for that reason, it's not always easy to spot destructive narcissism right away, especially when we're talking about a less known and understood subtype such as covert or vulnerable narcissism. The thing to know up front is this: these people are master manipulators, and even the most highly trained clinicians will admit to being duped before being able to put the pieces of the puzzle together and recognize what exactly it is that they're dealing with. So don't be too hard on yourself for missing the signs. It actually happens to the best of us. That said, the more you know what you're looking for, the easier it will be for you to identify covert narcissism quickly, so you can save yourself the inevitable grief by either distancing yourself early on or removing yourself from the dynamic entirely. Doing so will help you to avoid unnecessary pain, drama, and trauma, as well as protect yourself from being exploited and drained dry by this stealth and sneaky master manipulator. So let's start by gaining an understanding of the difference between covert and overt narcissism. Covert narcissism is also known as fragile or vulnerable narcissism. And unlike your more overt or grandiose narcissist, people with this subtype tend not to outwardly demonstrate arrogance or entitlement. Rather than exuding excessive charm or confidence, they'll present as timid, meek, or shy. And they'll likely be quite self-effacing. They'll come across as passive, demure, insecure even. And if you spend enough time with them, you'll notice that they're often anxious. The more high spectrum they are, the more hypersensitive they'll be. Obsessed even, specifically with regard to their image and how others might perceive them. What others may be thinking or saying about them takes up a lot of their mental and emotional bandwidth. On the surface, they appear to be quite quiet, reserved, and sensitive. They are especially sensitive to any perceived criticism. The mere hint of it in their own minds is enough to cause narcissistic injury. And where there is narcissistic injury, you can be sure all kinds of trouble is soon to follow. While people with overt narcissism generally seek attention outwardly and put themselves forward as superior or grandiose, one way or another, subtly or not so subtly, the message is always sent: you are beneath them. Unless, of course, they think being aligned with you in any way will somehow benefit them, enhance their image, or serve whatever agenda they might be running at the time, then, of course, you'll be charmed. Either way, if you're paying attention, you'll notice patterns of manipulative and exploitative behavior that relates to an irrational sense of entitlement, egotistical delusions of grandeur, and an unusually high need for attention, admiration, and recognition. Covert narcissism, on the other hand, involves a more internalized experience. People with these traits still feel unappreciated, have a very high need for attention and admiration, feel contempt for those they consider to be inferior, and believe they're entitled to special treatment. But instead of displaying outward grandiosity, they're much more subtle, sneaky, childish even, and definitely passive-aggressive in how they work to manipulate, target, and exploit others. Where the overt or grandiose narcissist is the disagreeable extrovert, the covert narcissist is the disagreeable introvert. So let's talk about the signs of covert narcissism. Your first clue is this: they live from a chronic victim state and mentality. "Oh, poor me" is their ongoing mantra. One way or another, they'll be communicating the message of just how hard done by they are, how betrayed, how victimized, how used, abused, and harmed they've been, no matter the relationship crimes that they themselves have committed. And initially, of course, we believe them and therefore feel bad for them. Again, they present as reserved, meek, and shy. They're timid and work hard to project humility, false humility, which they back up with an almost bizarre tendency to put themselves down. And this is where we are duped. The reality is that underneath that shy, reserved, seemingly humble facade is a great big, huge, overinflated ego. And if you stick around long enough, you're soon going to find out to what extent that is true with these folks. Another clue is this: they're draining. Again, if you pay attention to how you feel in their presence, you're going to notice that your vital life force energy is literally being siphoned from your very soul. You leave feeling emotionally and energetically depleted, contaminated to a degree, never uplifted or inspired. Another clue is they're emotionally immature. You are truly dealing with a wounded, highly manipulative toddler in an adult body, no matter how old they are or how hard they work to present themselves as good, kind, and altruistic. And that is definitely one of the main reasons this subtype of narcissism can be difficult to spot. They initially present as having empathy, being truly kind, caring, good people. But in truth, their tendency to step in and help others is purely motivated by a desire for recognition and external validation, as opposed to from any sense of genuine kindness, generosity, altruism, or just from the goodness of their own heart. They can also be quite smug, quiet and reserved, with an air of superiority, especially if they feel slighted in any way. Say, for example, once they suspect you're onto them and aren't buying their bullshit story they've been working so hard to convince you of, or something you've done or said triggers their thinly veiled insecurity and deep feelings of inferiority. When this happens, they'll become silent and bitter and sulk like the emotional toddler that they are. They communicate passive-aggressively, rarely directly. For example, pouting, sighing, the silent treatment, and stonewalling. They're cowards. Ask them if something's wrong, and they'll say, no, everything's fine, even though it's very clear it isn't. They can't just adult and deal head on. It's always about the childish games. They're big on perception manipulation, often through toxic gossip and storytelling, using truth out of context, telling half-truths, lying by omission, spinning narratives, and leaving out big pieces of the truth, lest you figure out that they're actually the one and only author of their own ongoing and never-ending misery and misfortune. Like all narcissists, they're pathologically envious and feel they deserve what others have, even though they're unwilling to work for it or make the changes that would enable them to attract and create the same for themselves. They also carry a lot of anger and tend to stomp and scream and rage when they can't get their own way, or target you indirectly and passive-aggressively behind your back to vent and project their rage, but then smile nice to your face when you're present. To say that you're dealing with an entitled, childish ingrate who needs the whole world to see what a victim they are and feel sorry for them would be right over the target. Like their more grandiose counterparts on this spectrum of destructive narcissism, they lack empathy for the feelings and experiences of others. They have zero ability to genuinely empathize with the impact of their appalling attitudes, choices, behavior, and energy-sucking demeanor have on other people. Now comment below and tell me if you've encountered anyone with these traits in your life, and if so, who were they? And if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class, there is a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. So how do we manage the covert narcissist with strength? Well, the same way we do any other destructive narcissist. It begins with radical acceptance. Understand who and what you're dealing with and stay in the truth of your experience and your reality. Then have realistic expectations. These people do not change. The sooner you surrender to that reality, the better off you'll be. Once you've accepted the reality of the situation and you're operating from a place of realistic expectations, you'll want to start practicing the gray rock method. And if you don't know what that is, you can watch this video here to learn more about how that works. But suffice to say, your goal is to detach with as little drama and trauma as possible. You can do this by becoming as uninterested and uninteresting as humanly possible. And from there, you want to stop engaging to the best of your ability. Don't give any narcissistic supply through your attention or emotional reaction. Any attention is better than no attention to a narcissist. So cut off the source of narcissistic supply by giving them no attention and no reaction. Do not explain or defend yourself. And whatever you do, do not personalize their negativity or distorted perceptions of reality. Understand what is their stuff and what is yours, and don't take on their garbage. Stand in your truth with the intent to disengage in so much as you're able. Establish low contact or no contact if you can do it. The point is, keep your distance. And lastly, refuse to be manipulated. Do not allow their painful history or victim story to be an excuse for their appalling, entitled, and infantile way of showing up in the world. You aren't doing them any favors by giving them a pass and another pass and another pass while they continue to manipulate, exploit, and harm you. Now here's the thing. When you start pulling away from a covert narcissist, they will pull the big victim card. For example, emotional manipulation, childish outbursts, rageful attacks, perhaps even threats of suicide. If they sense that you're getting ready to discard them, they'll become resentful, and one way or another, they're going to lash out. Now, usually they'll do this through passive-aggressive behavior, never directly, unless of course they feel cornered, then look out. But in general, the covert narcissist is a coward, so you can generally expect passive-aggressive stuff like smearing you to anyone who will listen. This sort of thing is more their style. The bottom line is this. These people do not change. Their maladaptive personality significantly worsens under stress or disappointment and the threat of exposure. So make no mistake, covert narcissists are absolutely as dangerous and destructive as more overt and grandiose narcissists. They'll just do much of the damage behind your back in more sneaky, underhanded, and sinister ways because they lack the courage to confront you face to face, being the weak little cowards that they are. So if you can, identify the traits early, establish some boundaries, have realistic expectations for who and what you're dealing with. Recognize that it's not your job to fix, rescue, help, or save them. Decide that you will not let their projection, manipulation, and victim stance determine how you feel about yourself. Do not fall for the BS, and do not allow them to gaslight you. This is what narcissists do. Covert or overt, they talk to you and about you in such a way that anything that goes wrong is going to be all your fault. And anything that they do or don't do is also all your fault. That, my friends, is one of the ways they attempt to gaslight us. You'll hear phrases like, I didn't do that. I'm not the one who's angry. Why are you being so sensitive? Why are you so bitter? What's wrong with you? And if you don't have boundaries, realistic expectations, and distance, as an empath, you're naturally going to start second guessing and questioning yourself. Maybe it is me. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am the problem. And friend, don't go there. I'm not saying you're perfect, none of us are, but we don't have to take on their crap. Life is hard enough without all the extra. So be strong in the face of this nonsense, and if that's hard for you, you've got to remember this is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to do your work and get the help and the support and the guidance that you need to be able to stand up in strength, stand in your truth, and take good care of you. My friends, I hope you got some value out of this. If you liked what you heard, be sure to drop a like and a comment. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. If you're new to my channel, a very special welcome. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. And again, if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in my 8-week transformational coaching program, The Freedom Class, there is a link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. And as always, I will leave you with this. Know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Mwah. Much love. Bye for now.